This video is to review Investigation 3D. In this investigation, we learn some similarities between plane figures and space figures. So we looked at the net, and the net is, for example, if we have, let's say, triangular pyramid, then we can cut it and open up that we have equilateral triangle and three isosceles triangle. And if you find out the area of the side one, the lateral one, that's the lateral surface area. And if we find out if you add the area of the base, we call it total surface area. So in order to find lateral surface area, for example, let's say we have hexagonal cylinder. That's gonna be, we'll have the regular one, right? So we have 2 hexagon and 6 rectangles. So the lateral surface area is just the side of it. So if we could find out the area of small rectangle and multiply by 6 of them, then that's going to be the entire lateral surface area. We also learned that we can find these lateral surface area into we just simply find out that at the perimeter of this base, because the perimeter of the base is exactly the same as the base of the long rectangle after you open that up, and then multiply by the height, and then we can get the lateral surface area. And if we add the area of the hexagon, that's going to be total surface area. Let's learn how to find the cylinder and the cone. That's the next. So how do we find the area of lateral surface area of the cylinder? If you open that up, then we'll have long rectangle and 2 circles. So if we find out the area of this long big rectangle, then we can that's going to be the lateral surface area of this cone. And as you know, in order to find the area of the rectangle, we have to find out the base and the height. The height is easy, that's going to be the same as the height of the cylinder, but how do we find the base? The base, I want you to realize that the base of the cylinder, the lateral surface of the cylinder, is exactly the same as the circumference of the base circle. So if you could find out the circumference, which could be found by 2 times pi times radius, or pi times diameter, then we can find the base. Once we find, circumference. Once we find the circumference, that's going to be exactly the same as the base. So multiply that base times height, then we can find the lateral surface area. And if you want to find the total surface area, then we're going to have to use pi times r squared. Then find the area of the circle, multiply by 2 because we have 2 circles, and add to it. Then that's going to be the total surface area. How do we find that surface area of a cone? The cone will be a little tricky, but if you open that up, we'll have partial circle and the small base circle, which is the base circle of this one. So in order to find the lateral surface area, we learned that can be found out by I can easily find that the slant height times radius of the base circle times pi. So let's say slant height is 4 and the radius is 3, for example. Then lateral surface area of this partial circle will be 3 times 4 times pi, which is 12 pi. And that's very easy. And if you want to find out the total surface area, then you're going to have to add area of the circle to it. So to summarize surface area, we can find out the letter surface area equals perimeter times height for prism. And we can find out, well, actually prism and a cylinder. Let me just add to it. And cylinder. So let's say we have triangular prism, for example. And let's say this is a regular one, so that we have the equilateral triangle as a base. And let's say each side is 3. Then the perimeter will be 9, because 3 times 3 times 3. Again, perimeter is the length all around. So if you walk from here, the top vertex, to all around the triangle, how many meter or feet would you be walking? That's 9 units. So that's P. And let's say the height of the, again, the base doesn't have to be on the top and the bottom, as long as that's the kind of the the base figure that you have 200 or 300 copies of it and then stuck together. What would be the so that's the base. Base is not the one that is on the bottom. So the height is, for example, let's say 10. Then the lateral surface area will be perimeter times height, which is 9 times 10 in this case, so it's going to be 90 square units. For the circle or the cylinder, it's the same thing, but the cylinder you have to use the 2 pi r, circumference equal 2 pi r. So let's say radius is, let's say diameter is 8, for example. Then the radius will be 4, so 4 times 2 will be 8. So the perimeter or circumference will be 8 pi. Then you're going to multiply by the height. So let's say height is, for example, 4 units. Then it's going to be lateral surface area will be perimeter or circumference times height. Therefore, it's 8 times 4, so that's 32 square pi. That's how you find the lateral surface area of prism and cylinder. So now, how do we find the right pyramids and cone? So let's say that's lateral surface area. That's going to be found by half times perimeter times slant height. So we use slant height. So let's say we have square pyramid, regular one. Then we first have to find out the perimeter. Let's say the base will be square. So let's say we have 4 by 4 square. Then the perimeter is 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, so that's 16 units. And let's say slant height is, for example, 5. Then you're going to go lateral surface area is half of, so half times perimeter, which is 16 in this case, times 5, slant height, which is 5, so that's 40 square units. So that's going to be the area. The lateral surface area of this pyramid will be 4 triangles, because you don't include the base. So that's going to be the lateral surface area. So how do we find the lateral surface area of cone? We can also find that out. So let's say the radius is 4, slant height is 5, the same way. Not really the same way, but so we'll have lateral surface area will be half of perimeter, in this case circumference. What would be the circumference? Circumference will be 2 times pi times radius, therefore that's 8 pi, times slant height, which is 5, so that's going to be 40 pi square unit. So that's going to be a little bit more than 120-ish square units. And finally, we learned how to find a volume, and the volume is the number of cubes that can fill up the space. And just like, so we can use we can extend the idea of area as well. And how do we find the volume? The volume is base area times height. So let's say we have, so that's the prism and a cylinder. And for the pyramid and cone, you divide that by 3. That's pyramid and a cone. So for example, let's say we have a triangular prism with the base will be, that's going to be the triangle, the equilateral triangle. Let's say we have 5 by 5 by, no, let's say 6 by 6 by 6. Then we first have to find out in order to find the area of this triangle, we have to find the height. So the height will be, you take the half of it, so that's going to be 6 and 3. That's going to be 36 minus 9, 6 squared minus 3 squared, that's going to be 27. So that's going to be the square root of 27. That's going to be the height of it. That is, square root of 27 is 9 times 3, and we got the square number right there. So that's 3 square root of 3. So that's the height. So you multiply base times height. That's going to be 18 square root of 3 and divided by 2. So the area of that triangle is 9 square root of 3 square unit. So that's the base area. Okay, we got the capital B that stands for the base area. Once you get the base area, we are good at those. Once you get the base area, you multiply by the height. So let's say height is, let's make it, for example, 5. Then you multiply those together, then you get 45 square root of 3 square unit. Okay? And to find a cylinder, we have V equals base area times height divided by 3. So for example, let's say we have a cone with the radius of 2 and the height is 4, for example. Then we first have to find out the base area, which could be found out by area of circle is pi times radius squared. So that's 4 pi, because 2 times 2. That's the base area. Then you multiply by the height. That's the base area times height, which is 4. That's 16 pi. And then at the end you got to divide it by 3. So you'll have 16 over 3 pi square unit. And unless the problem asks you to do so, don't convert the pi into 3.14 because pi is not 3.14. We just use it for our convenience, but leaving pi as pi is most accurate. And this is basically what we have learned in Investigation 3D.